Miss Navarro, a native of Cadiz, Spain, but having spent several years living abroad, has worked in protocol and international relations primarily for the U.S. government for over 20 years. Along with her wealth of experience, she carries a bachelor's degree in translation and interpretation, several master's degrees in protocol and international relations, communication and political marketing, and conflict resolution, and she is a graduate of the Yale University Women's Leadership Program. She has taught protocol courses to aspiring professionals at a distinguished business school in Madrid, served on the board of directors for an African NGO, professionally translated a series of psychology textbooks, and has nearly completed certification as a Gestalt therapist. Ms. Navarro is also the co-founder and director of communication and public relations for Be Spain Savvy, a renowned Spanish concierge and expat counseling agency. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ms. Brenda Navarro Castellet.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you. For me, it's a privilege and an honor to be here. I want to thank, first of all, Ladonna for inviting me, and for Ladonna and Dr. Nicoletta and Honorable Patricia for putting this amazing event together. It's been great so far. You counted yesterday up to 30 different countries or over 30. So I can think of a better way to learn protocol. They're learning from one another globally. This is great. And I'm so grateful to be able to talk after my colleagues, because Minabai and Krudi's presentations have been like perfect for what we're going to talk about right now. And strategic influence and the protocol for lasting impact. That's what I want to talk about today. So to start, I'm going to mention a story that many of us have probably heard, or at least something similar we can relate to, right? It's not tied to any specific event, but it's reflective of real protocol dynamics. So imagine a young diplomat at a high-level international meeting greeted an ambassador by his first name, not once, but twice. It wasn't meant as disrespect. It came from cultural unfamiliarity. The ambassador said nothing, but he declined every follow-up meeting. The relationship quietly dissolved, not because of a disagreement, but because of a breach in protocol. In diplomacy, trust doesn't start with treaties. It starts with tone, timing, and perception. And today, I want to talk to you about how protocol is not only about rules or decorum, it's about influence. Influence that begins before the first word is spoken, and often depends on how well we listen after that. The first 5 seconds, what happens before we speak. I love this quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson. What you do speaks so loud that I cannot hear what you say. This ability to manage perception in those first few moments is deeply aligned with SDG 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions. Why? Well, because trust, transparency, and inclusive behavior starts with how individuals represent the institutions behind them. The better we handle these micro interactions, the more legitimacy and stability we bring to our global engagements. The psychology of first impressions tell us we make judgments in milliseconds. In diplomatic and intercultural settings, those first 5 seconds can define the success of a meeting or a relationship. Consider body language, your posture, your expression, pace of movement. Consider also cultural expectations. In some contexts, direct eye contact is confidence. In others, is disrespect. These micro behaviors send messages louder than words. Let me share an example with you. A protocol officer from a Latin American delegation enters a negotiation room, makes direct eye contact with his counterpart from East Asia, pauses respectfully, offers a subtle nod before extending his hand. It lasted 5 seconds, but the tone for mutual respect and trust had already been set. So here are some tips for making a positive first impression. Be yourself on your best day. Project confidence and authenticity. Smile and make eye contact. Smile is easy, is free, and is the international language. It needs no translation. Dress appropriately. Show respect for the occasion and the people you're meeting. Be friendly and positive. A warm and engaging attitude can make a positive impact. Be on time. Punctuality demonstrates respect for others' times. But this is cultural too, right? Try to be always 10 minutes early in the UK and do not get offended if someone arrives 10 minutes late in Spain. In Spain, there's being on time. This is how protocol creates strategic influence before anything is said. So let's continue now with no words. Silence, the silent power. Listening as a diplomatic strategy. In protocol, silence is not absence, it's influence, we believe. Active listening also supports SDG 16 and 17. By making space for inclusive dialogue and de-escalating conflict. In protocol, we promote peaceful societies and more effective, empathetic partnerships. Listening is the foundation of shared decision-making, and protocol professionals who master these skills become key facilitators of cross-cultural trust. I always say every protocol professional is a little bit of a psychologist too. I myself am a Gestalt therapist, 2 more short, besides my protocol hat. From a Gestalt therapy perspective, active listening is not only a cognitive skill, it's a relational stance. It requires being fully present with the other person, noticing not just their words, but their tone, their gestures, and the pauses. In diplomatic protocol, this means your attention becomes a signal of respect and recognition. It's not about fixing, responding, or managing impressions. It's about witnessing the other person without interruption, which can often transform tension into trust. In high context cultures, silence is meaning. Listening becomes the dialogue. As protocol professionals, we must tune into tone, timing, and what it is not said. I'm going to share another real example. During a tense bilateral discussion, a protocol chief simply paused after the other party spoke, then repeated back the last line with sincerity. That pause changed the room. It didn't change policy, it changed posture. So here is the protocol listening guide. Listen for content. Listen for emotion. Listen for what's not being said. Listen for when to stop talking. And next, let's talk about IRIS protocol checklist. Meaningful relationships in diplomacy don't just happen by accident. They're built through consistent, conscious behaviors. What is the IRIS protocol checklist? Let's understand first what IRIS stands for. Influence, respect, inclusion, and sincerity. When do we want to use this checklist? Whenever we want to set ourselves for success in one of our protocol engagements. Each question on this checklist contributes directly to fostering understanding, mutual respect, and global cooperation. So let's go ahead and see the questions. Have I done my cultural homework? Preparation shows respect. Understanding local customs, values, expectations allows you to connect meaningfully and avoid unintentional offense. Do I know the names and correct forms of address? Names matter. Titles and honorifics reflect status and tradition. Use them properly. It signals recognition and builds instant rapport. What small gesture will signal respect? Whether it's greeting style, a gift, or a seating adjustment, subtle gesture can communicate profound understanding and goodwill. Am I entering with humility and attention? Influence starts with presence. A humble entrance, attentive body language, and openness creates the conditions for collaboration. Can I listen longer than I speak? Speaking less but listening actively builds trust, especially in high-stakes or cross-cultural environments. Am I creating space for others to be seen and heard? Inclusion isn't a box to check. It's a diplomatic necessity. When we make room for every voice, we foster loyalty and mutual respect. What do I want this relationship to feel like, not just to produce? The strategic relationships are built on emotional intelligence. We need to aim for experiences that feel respectful, safe, and enduring, non-transactional. But this is not a script, it's a mindset. And asking these 7 questions can help any protocol officer, diplomat, or leader set the tone for trust from the very first moment. Now let's turn to something surprisingly timeless. This one is one of my all-time favorite formulas. We've all been told to be polite, but what if I told you that likability might be the most underestimated power in diplomacy? President Lyndon B. Johnson once shared his 10-point formula for success. Refrain from protocol. These points read like a master class in strategic influence, and each one is important for diplomatic work. So let's go ahead and remember. The first one he shared was remember names. Our name is our favorite word. Talk about mirror neurons and getting in action. Cultural care starts here. Using someone's name, especially with proper pronunciation and titles, shows attentiveness and respect. Be easy to approach. Be an all-shoe kind of person, comfortable and accessible. Your energy should open doors. Being seen as accessible invites dialogue and reduces intimidation, which is crucial in intercultural environments. Be easygoing, relax, try to take things calmly so things don't ruffle you. Flexibility signals maturity. Don't be egotistical. You don't know everything. Nobody does. Don't talk about yourself all the time. Influence is earned, not asserted. Be interesting. Talk about things you know and ask questions about the other person. Know what matters to others. Eliminate scratchiness, self-awareness. This is very important. So let's polish ourselves. Scratchiness is the friction you don't realize you cause. It may be over talking, interrupting, or dismissing cultural nuance. Ask people you know and respect, and those who love you, what are your flaws? Heal misunderstandings. Credibility grows from closure. Whether it's a misused flag or a skipped introduction, addressing the issue with sincerity restores respect and keeps the relationship intact. And practice liking people. Find something good in everyone. Protocol is about finding common ground. When you choose to value others, you become more persuasive and more trustworthy. Congratulate others. Don't miss an opportunity to recognize people's job well done. Recognition builds goodwill. Acknowledging an achievement, no matter how small, reinforces positive rapport. And last but not least, offer spiritual strength. And this doesn't mean religion. People remember how you make them feel. Like we just heard in the conference before. So it means grace under pressure. Listen with your 5 senses. When you create emotional safety and stability, people are drawn to your leadership. Be compassionate with those that are sad or having a bad day. This isn't just a formula for being liked. I think this is a strategy for building credibility, connection, and lasting partnerships. So let's bring this together. Strategic influence doesn't require grand speeches. It starts with the first 5 seconds. It grows in how we listen, and it endures through presence, humility, and respect. Now take it further. When everyone speaks the language of respect, when mayors talk to ministers and ministers talk to international partners using a shared protocol code, you get alignment. You get SDG 17, partnerships that work. Not flashy, not fast, but lasting. So the next time you hear protocol, don't think stiff or outdated. Think of it as a quiet superpower that shapes institutions and reveals trust and make diplomacy not just possible, but powerful. Because protocol is not about who goes first. It's about who builds peace and how long it lasts. Thank you.